Good evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you're at in the world. We're the Trifecta Sports Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Episode 10, I believe. Is that right? Are we on 10? Can't remember. It's been a while.
Sounds good.
If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, go ahead and do that now. We're looking to increase our subscriber count every single week. Also, if you're listening to us on Spotify or iTunes or Apple Podcasts, hit the follow button, download all our episodes. It helps us out to grow our channels. Pretty lengthy show. There's a lot going on in sports this week. We had the NFL draft. The NBA playoffs are in full swing. We have Trevor Bauer actually receiving a pretty lengthy ban in terms of Major League Baseball. We have some NCAA men's basketball talk. And then the NHL playoffs. Something we haven't talked about yet on the show is the National Hockey League. Dave is our hockey guru guy, as he has moved out towards the Midwest, where he's a big St. Louis Blues fan, obviously, checking the hat. But we're going to kick off with NFL draft talk. So the NFL draft kicked off this week. In my opinion, not a star-studded NBA or NFL draft, but there are some guys that were taken that are going to make heavy impacts early on for their respective teams. So, biggest surprises though, guys. What do you guys feel like some big surprises? What did you see that didn't really make a lot of sense to you?
Overall, the biggest surprise of the draft to me had nothing to do with what happened on draft night, and it was the value of Amari Cooper for a fifth-round pick. The Browns got him for a fifth-rounder, and then we see A.J. Brown go for, I believe, a first and a third. Hollywood Brown goes for a first. Like, that was an absolute steal in the wide receiver market that we've seen before and after that. Like, I don't know. I don't think the Browns had the best draft, but when you look at getting him for a fifth-rounder, they absolutely stole it. The value of wide receivers is insane, and we saw it in the draft. That's all they talked about, right?
Yeah.
More first rounders than ever before.
Yeah.
More in the first 100 picks or something than ever before.
There was like 17 or something in the first two rounds, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that was going to be my shock. Of the first was just how many teams were trading up, trying to get in that Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jameson Williams. Those three went boom, 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 and then the Commanders, who traded down, then picked up Jahan Dotson 3 picks later. So it's like the amount of value placed on wide receivers right now is absolutely insane.
Well, you see how the league has grown. It used to be like a quarterback league, but now you could have a mid-tier, mediocre quarterback, Baker Mayfield, and still be able to produce wins with quality receivers. And now you're starting to see these big trios of receivers like the Bengals have had, and everybody's looking for that next trio to split everybody out, and then you can't stop all three. So somebody's having big games. So I think that's kind of where the league is going. We saw it over time in the 90s. It was like the big bruising running back league. It's kind of always been a defensive league, but offensively you're looking at, early 2000s to mid 2000s quarterbacks. And now the transition is making it to wide receivers, playmakers type guys. So it's pretty cool to see, and offenses are geared toward that now too. So my biggest takeaway.
Go ahead. I'll say, did the Eagles pick up another wide receiver, or did they just trade for AJ?
I don't know. I didn't pay attention to the Eagles.
I think the Eagles had an amazing draft, but they did not pick up a wide receiver.
Okay. Never mind. Go ahead.
My biggest surprise is probably consistent with most other people is obviously Georgia. The Georgia Bulldogs had the most players taken in the draft ever. But the biggest surprise was Nakobe Dean falling out of the first round. The dude had some questions about him for some reason. All these Georgia players, I think 5 in the first round or 6 in the first round, I can't really remember the actual total. But they were all being taken, and the best one was still on the board at the end. I think that was the biggest surprise for a lot of people, including all the draft experts on television. But that's my biggest surprise.
Yeah, that right there is like what I feel like is so funny, and how kind of messed up the whole draft process is. I mean, we talk about the greatest of all time, Tom Brady, and he was a late round draft pick. And it's like Nakobe Dean fell because, he's undersized and they're worried about injury history. It's like, this guy's probably going to go be an all pro. And it's just kind of funny how the draft is all centered around, you know, the specifics. How fast are you? How big are you? How strong are you? And it's like, but what do you do when the helmet's on, the pads are on, you're in between the lines, and the ball is played? Like, how do you? Nothing about how well you play football, I feel like, goes into draft night, and how they are, just speculated for the last 6 months is crazy to me. And good for Georgia setting. I believe they broke the all-time record for most players drafted. I mean, 5 in the first round. I mean, we talk about, Kentucky's done it in basketball. I'm sure maybe Duke's done it now too. But when you're rolling out, you have 22 for sure starters, and 5 of those are selected in the first round. That is insane, which we saw them dominate on the defensive side all year.
Yep.
Well deserved. So just crazy that their best guy fell that far.
Yeah, I think they had 15 players selected. Was that the final number?
Yeah.
I have no idea the number, but I'm looking at a bunch of different grades for all the teams, and it's just about everybody that with an A plus, A plus. Somebody on these teams have a Georgia guy that they've drafted, or multiple Georgia guys. And I'm looking down here. I've seen like 3 teams that in the top 10 in terms of draft ranks that didn't draft a Georgia guy.
Yeah.
So that says a lot about Kirby Smart and the program he's running down there.
Yeah.
And then I think the other one that we got to talk about, I mean, Malik Willis was like a bona fide, first or second quarterback taken off the board, and he falls all the way to 86, going to the Tennessee Titans. What do y'all think about that pick, knowing that now they let A.J. Brown walk, they let Julio Jones walk, and then they go pick up another running back in the 4th?
That didn't make a lot of sense to me, honestly. The teams that took quarterbacks, and we talked about this off the air, the teams that took quarterbacks, other than the Panthers, didn't necessarily need one. Now, the Titans, is Ryan Tannehill going to be their long-term solution? Probably not. I don't know his contract status. I don't know much about the numbers he's being paid and what he's expected to do here in the next year, in the next 3 years. But Malik Willis is a very, very, very talented quarterback. And when you take a guy like that, it is a late-round pick. Would he go in the 4th or the 5th? I can't remember quite yet.
I believe it was 3rd.
3rd? Okay. But
Yeah.
he was the 4th quarterback pick. Is that correct?
3rd.
Okay.
He went behind Ritter and Pickett.
Okay.
Yeah, he was.
That makes sense, yeah.
Did he? I thought the Patriots might have picked the Western Kentucky guy.
That was in the 4th round.
Yeah, he was 5th quarterback.
Oh, okay.
And that was another one that I was scratching my head over too, because Bailey Zapp is he's a stat stuffer. Like, he has, broken Joe Burrow's records at Western for single season yards and touchdowns. You have Mac Jones, who come off a really good season and took your team to where, they could set themselves up for a deep playoff run here in the next couple of years with, some tools around him. And then you go pick a guy that has performed like that. Like, what does that tell Mac Jones? That's another one that was a head scratcher for me. But it is what it is, man.
Well,
it is what it is, man.
Ryan Tannehill, this is the last guaranteed year of his contract, and he has an opt. He can go back to Tennessee next year, but he can opt out after this year too. So I actually like them selecting Malik Willis, because they're going to need a guy in a year or two, and if he's really that first round talent and he fell that far, I love that pick for him. But yeah, for the Patriots and Bailey Zappi or Zapp, I'm not sure how you say his last name, but I mean, if you look at his stats, I mean, granted, he was at Western Kentucky and wasn't playing the greatest competition, but wow. I mean, his stats compared to the other guys is, he's not even in the same realm with those other guys he is. So, Bill took Did y'all see the Sean McVay video about the
Cole
Patriots
Strange.
first round
Cole
pick?
Strange.
Cole
yeah.
Strange. Sean McVay's laughing because he's like, man, we thought we were going to get him at 104, and Bill's doing Bill stuff and just going by his own beat of his own drum, and so he's got a plan. It might be a Mac Jones is the guy, and Zapp's the new Jimmy Garoppolo, where Bill trades him in 2 years and gets an absolute haul for him.
That's a good point.
Yeah, people really have no idea what these quarterbacks are going to do coming out of college. I mean, the hit rate on them is insanely low. So I think teams started to realize that the risk isn't worth the reward when you have other guaranteed positions. You know what I mean? Like I'm one of the favorite drafts I saw from a team was Baltimore. I absolutely loved their first few picks all the way through basically the fourth round. But they got a guy at 25 overall, Linderbaum, number one center in the class, unquestioned. Centers have had a 100% hit rate over like the last 15 years. If you're a first round center drafted in the NFL, you 100% of the time get your fifth year option with the team, which usually means you're a contributor. And they didn't need a quarterback, but teams are starting to recognize, I think, if you don't have that sure thing at quarterback, where it's not, you can't have a mediocre quarterback anymore. You have to have somebody elite. If he's not a top 15 quarterback, we're talking every year about getting rid of him. And none of these guys are close to a top 15 quarterback in the NFL right now. So I think that's why they all slid. Pittsburgh is a different kind of organization. We've talked about that. If they want a guy, they're going to get him. They're going to invest in him. I think Kenny Pickett will be there for a long time, whether he starts or not. That's just the type of team Pittsburgh is. But outside of that, I'm fine with where the quarterbacks went. I think Ritter landed in the best possible situation he could. He's got 2 6'5" targets, and he's learning behind the best NFL comp of a quarterback that there's been in the past 10 years for his play style. So I think that's great.
Yeah, him and Mariota kind of remind me of each other.
Yeah.
A lot. And shout out to Desmond Ritter. He's a Kentucky kid, so that's a pretty cool thing to watch guys that grew up in your home state make a name for themselves. So,
yeah, and then the Steelers go and get Cam Hayward's brother in the 6th round.
Yeah,
so they've now got 3 sets of brothers on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're just amazing. Off of the field, I absolutely love the Steelers. I know I've said it before, but everything they do, I just keep liking them more and more.
So on the flip side of that, the team that everybody hates, which I think is the biggest miss first round pick in the draft, the Dallas Cowboys going and getting an offensive tackle whenever they had the worst defense in the league last year, and you got playmakers out there on the defensive side still, and they go and get an offensive tackle. I think that was the biggest miss of that first round.
Yeah, and they reached on him, right? Like, I don't think he was anywhere close to first round projection.
And yeah, I just think it's hilarious. I mean, that offense, it's electric. I mean, they put up points last year.
And they will again this year, too.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, why go get an offensive lineman when there's plenty out there? I mean, Darian Kennard fell to, the 5th? So there's quality guys out there. Go get another Micah Parsons.
Yeah, for real. Like, you can go get those dudes. Like, they had a good draft last year with Micah Parsons and Diggs and all those guys. But, like, you need pass rushers. I couldn't name a pass rusher on the Dallas Cowboys. Can you guys name one?
No, Gregory left in free
Besides
agency.
Parsons.
And yeah, Parsons is the main guy. So those were their bookends, and they need to replace one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a couple of Kentucky guys on that defense too, but they're not going to be the ones that are they're not going to be the mainstays. They're not going to be, they're 5-6 year NFL careers. That's what they've got. You need like a staple in the middle.
And listen to these guys that went after the Cowboys. Jermaine Johnson, defensive end, Florida State, arguably he was a top 10 guy that fell. Mm-hmm. Then you had Devin Lloyd, Utah inside linebacker, Devontae Wyatt, Georgia tackle, George Kalifas out of Purdue, and then you had Daxton Hill, safety out of Michigan, and then Lewis Sine, safety out of Georgia. And I think any of those guys would be better than going get an offensive tackle in that situation.
Yeah,
let me ask you guys this question. Sorry. Which pick do you think is going to have the biggest impact right away? You guys have an idea or anything like that? You could think on it for a second. It's kind of hard for me to pick something like that.
Yeah. Let's do an offense and a defense. Pick one each side because
that's fine.
The impacts are very different. I think it's going to be kind of a tandem with what Baltimore did this offseason, but I'm going Kyle Hamilton. That secondary is going to be insane, and he may not start at safety because they already had him, but he's going to be on the field. He might play that nickel role or slide somebody else over into that slot corner. But they brought the safety over from New Orleans. They've already got probably the best corner duo in the league. I think it's going to be insanely difficult to play with that second level of Baltimore. I mean, dude's 6'4", 220, playing safety.
Yeah.
That's not far off from Parsons, right? I mean, that's what you're looking at back there at the top of your zones, downfield. So I think he's a great fit to defend that division. It's going to be hard to throw on him, especially in the middle of the field, and I think he's going to have a huge impact for them right away. Second, I would say Jordan Davis. He's massive. And to be able to learn under a guy like Fletcher Cox,
who is built similarly.
Yeah, that's invaluable. I mean, he's learning from a Hall of Famer. So I think we could see a lot out of Jordan Davis this year in Philly.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a wide receiver that the Lions took. The Lions had a great draft. In my opinion, the Lions probably did the best to help out their team. Defensively, they got two bookend pass rushers with Aiden Hutchinson and Josh Paschal. Both of them are going to be probably day one starters, in my opinion. And then Jameson Williams from Alabama. They need to help out Jared Goff in some way. They have zero offensive production whatsoever. They can't score points. A guy like Williams is going to come in and help them right away. And I'm going to cheat and go both Aiden Hutchinson and Josh Paschal for the biggest impact for those teams. When you go to a bad team and you're really good, it's pretty easy to pick an impact player. But those are my picks for sure.
Oh, boys, I'm torn. But I think I'm going to do Coop talked about him. I think I'm going to go Tyler Linderbaum, center out of the Ravens. I think that centers are 100% lock pretty much to get a second contract. They need to get some help for Lamar Jackson to not be running for his life. And I think that pick, there's a lot of good picks out there. I would say if I could take all of the Jets' first-round picks, I would take them as my best. But if we're just going one single player that is going to contribute the most year one, I think it's going to be Tyler Linderbaum. I think, especially in that division where it's going to be anybody's at this point, it's them getting protection for Lamar is huge. So, and those Iowa boys, they're big boys, and there's a lot of the Iowa offensive linemen in the league. So that's a proud tradition right there.
Yeah. And talk about Baltimore again. Like I said, they're my favorite draft. Ojabo at 13th in the second, that may be the steal. I mean, they got the best player at three different positions without making, crazy moves. They gave up Hollywood Brown. That's what got them Linderbaum. But to get the best outside linebacker when we talk about a league that has such a premium on edge rushers just because he's out for a year, like, it's insane. Now they're pairing him with Odafe Owe, who's only 23 going into this season. Like, they have a pass rush for the next decade once he gets healthy. And I loved what Baltimore did. They got the biggest guy in the draft with Daniel Falil, 6'8", 384.
Massive. The
biggest dude available to be drafted in the fourth round. So, yeah, all Baltimore for me.
Yeah. Well, my other pick, I want to be a homer real quick because, knee jerk reaction whenever the Commanders traded down, whenever they were at 11, and we had Chris Olave and Jamison Williams on the board. We traded with the Saints to go back down to 16, and then we got Jahan Dotson. I'm in love with that pick now. I think we picked up a third and a fourth for it. And, they're talking about Chris Olave and Jamison Williams. That's Terry McLaurin that we have already got, who's an absolute stud. And we go and get Jahan Watson, who is a slot guy. I think Carson Wentz has 1 year to show what he's got, and because he has the weapons now. We're talking about, a depth chart of Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel once he's healthy, Jahan Dotson on the inside, and I believe Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick running the ball.
Picked up Brian Robinson at Alabama to help there too.
Yeah, like we got we got an offense. I love that we picked up a third and a fourth, and probably still got the guy that they wanted. They probably weren't going after those big names, and they traded back and got just exactly who they wanted, because it would have been a reach at 11 to pick Dotson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so since Dave is being a homer, we can go through our fan teams drafts. I think the Bengals had a pretty good draft, in my opinion. They did address the need at offensive tackle and offensive line, but they've also done that in free agency as well. So it wasn't a humongous need in the draft. They went out and got some guys that were already in the league that had proven to be decent players, and now we're looking at a 5-man race for 2 guard spots. And competition is always great when it comes to offensive line, and that's obviously everybody said that going into whatever this offseason was that the Bengals must address. But I love Daxton Hill with their first round pick, safety out of Michigan. The guy is a freaking beast. Jesse Bates is in the last year of his contract. Who knows what happens there? Jesse has been a staple in our defense for years, and Bengals fans love Jesse Bates, but the dude's going to get paid a lot of money. I'm not sure that the Bengals can pay him a lot of money and still be able to keep their trio of wide receivers plus Joe Burrow. And this is a great replacement for him. They also shored up the defensive backfield with Cam Taylor-Britt out of Nebraska. And then later on in the 5th round, they had Tyson Anderson from Toledo as a safety. They did draft an offensive lineman with Cordell Volson from North Dakota State. Big dude, very, very athletic from what I saw. Didn't know much about him before we got picked, but we did get a replacement on the defensive line with Zachary Carter from Florida. SEC D linemen are usually pretty stout, so you can't go wrong with picking a defensive lineman from any SEC team because they're seeing the best of the best every week. So Sports Illustrated rated the Cincinnati Bengals of having a B grade on their draft, which isn't terrible. Didn't get a ton of picks, only 6 on the whole draft in general. But honestly, the need was met on the offensive line, skill positions on the offense. There was no need there. We're kind of full. Sure enough, the defensive backfield. We had a lot of injuries with our defensive backs. Also, I feel like some more depth at the linebacker position would have been helpful. And we did get a pick there at the 7th round, but we all know 7th round picks are not guaranteed. So,
yeah. I'd like to call out one more team, Philadelphia. We talked about a little bit about Jordan Davis. They picked up Nakobe Dean in the 3rd. They also turned, their 2nd first-round pick. They kept the lower one into A.J. Brown. I mean, that's a nice trio right there that they picked up, along with Cam Jurgens at center, number 2 center in the class, who won't start at center for him. He's going to compete for a guard spot and, again, learn from a Hall of Famer for that team right behind, Kelsey, who's been center in Philadelphia for a decade. Really like what they did. They also picked up a tight end who, if he hadn't taken a year off from football, probably a 2nd or 3rd round pick. Grant Calcaterra played at Oklahoma, took a year off, and then went to SMU. Had some concussion concerns, but can really stretch the middle of the field and almost be another receiver for them. So I like what Philly did too. They would be number 2 for me in my personal draft ranks behind Baltimore.
Oh, I don't know. I absolutely love what the New York Jets did. We're talking about 7 picks within in 4 rounds. You go and get your cornerback from Cincinnati and Ahmad Gardner. You add Garrett Wilson, who is an electric wide receiver out of Ohio State. Then you go and get Jermaine Johnson, who was slipping in the draft to shore up your defensive line there. And the pick that I absolutely love, which, you can question it, but was Breece Hall with the 4th pick in the second. Iowa State produces studs. I mean, we're talking Kareem Hunt and David Montgomery, the last 2 guys to come out of there. I'd say they're doing pretty good for their teams right now.
Yeah.
So, and Breece Hall, he was a stud at Iowa State. So, you could say it's a little, might be a reach, but they're having, Michael Carter had a good rookie season. But, I think what this does is now Zach Wilson has to produce. He can't say he doesn't have talent around him. They went and got some big defensive pieces. He's got playmakers at the wide receiver position and at the running back position. And that division is wide open right now. I mean, granted, the Dolphins went and got some pieces. The Bills are the Bills. But, I had said it before on a previous show. I think the AFC East is wide open. And I think the Jets made some big moves. Maybe not this year, but they're going to be a force here in a year or 2.
Yeah, I do like the draft.
Yeah, for sure. The NFL draft is always an exciting time because that just means that football is on its way. The summertime's coming. We're big football fans here. I saw a Coop about what was it 3 weeks ago? You activated our fantasy football league.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it's a little early for that, but
Yeah.
Hey, he got on one of them tangents there. He got a little itch there, so he had to click that button that says, "Hey, I get an email saying the Bush League has been activated by your commissioner." So
I have to reevaluate my keepers every month for at least 6 months before I can make a decision. So I was hitting that deadline to start.
That's funny. That's why he wins. I just, hey, this guy's good. I'm keeping him. I don't even know if I have keepers on my team this year, to be honest with you.
Hey, that's a good thing to bring up, Frank. Who's our top fantasy player for this year out of the draft?
Ooh, good question. Well, defensively, those guys are out the window. So
I agree.
It's got to be a wide receiver, right?
You would think. I don't
With
think any. Yeah, no quarterback's going to have an impact this year, in my opinion.
No, yeah. Kenny Pickett is probably your biggest bet there, but
I think that's Mitch Trubisky. I think that's his team.
I agree.
I would have to go with the old dude out of USC.
Drake London.
Drake London. Yeah, Drake London. I would have to go with him because you're not drafting a guy in the first round like that high without giving him targets.
I'm going to go with Christian Watson, wide receiver for Green Bay in round 2.
Well, yeah. Green Bay needs wide receivers, so
somebody's got to catch it there. He's 6'4".
Somebody has to.
Ran a sub 4.4. A lot like Marquise Valdez-Scantling, I think, in build. He's a big guy, but he's still a burner downfield. So Valdez-Scantling is also gone. I think he could get a lot of volume from Aaron Rodgers in year 1.
Yeah, I would side with Frank, but I want to make it a little more interesting because, the Drake London pick, they don't have Calvin Ridley. They don't have Julio Jones anymore.
Yeah.
They need a wide receiver. So I think I would pick him, but for the sake of an argument, I'm going to go with Treylon Burks out of Arkansas. Basically the exact same reason. They just cut Julio Jones. They just traded A.J. Brown. Who does he have to throw to? Treylon Burks.
And Burks is a big dude, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that pick, too, Dave. Some dark horses. I'm a homer for Kentucky guys. I'm not sure how Wan'Dale Robinson is going to fit into the NFL. He's just an electric player. He's very small. Kind of reminds me of somebody like, not a Darren Sproles, but similar. I can't think of a good.
Tavon Austin.
Tavon Austin. Who was the other guy that played? Golden Tate, maybe was he kind of similar?
No,
Not
Tate's
even close.
more.
I look at him being like a Tyreek Hill, McCole Hardman, like a Tyreek Hill early in his career, where he's going to get a lot of gadget stuff. Hope he turns into Tariq Cohen, kind of like that.
Yeah, that Cohen. That's another guy I was trying to think about too from Chicago. But yeah. So, any last glaring NFL draft talk that you guys would like to bring up?
Yeah. What do y'all think about Tampa Bay not going and getting a quarterback or making any sort of moves? Because, we've talked about the Tom Brady possibly going to Miami. Would you have thought they would have made a move here in the draft?
No, I don't think he's going. I mean, it's fun to talk about. I gave you guys the whole conspiracy spiel offline. We won't get into that. I think looking at the quarterbacks they had, maybe they're like, we've already got Trask in here. He's already learned for a year. Is anybody available going to be better than him with a year under our system? And they're just kind of going with it.
Yeah, I'd say not in the draft. You're not going to find anybody better than Kyle Trask.
Well, that's
right now.
Right.
They might not be way better than Kyle Trask, but like what you have currently and what you have.
Yeah.
I think they're in a good spot.
Yeah, I was just thinking like, Malik Willis was falling. And then you had, Desmond Ridder took Cincinnati to the playoffs. And they had some really good wins against some big-time programs. So I just didn't know. I mean, Kyle Trask, Florida guy, he's tried and true in college. But, I mean, you had some winners out there, which I didn't know if, you don't know what's going to happen with Tom Brady. So
yeah, I agree. One thing, draft analysts absolutely suck. There was no mock draft close to anything.
It's a guessing game, and honestly, there's no point in there. It's just content at this point. It's no different than what we're doing. We could do the same thing they're doing, and we have zero professional experience or training or even inside information, and we can get just as close as those guys are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read an article from Mel Kiper after the draft, and he was celebrating, had his own little segment on him hitting Kaiir Elam at 23 to the Bills. Nailed that one.
One pick.
1 for 32.
I'll take my $5 million from ESPN and my one right pick and move on.
I'll say that. Yeah, that's what fired me up watching it because, I mean, that NFL first round night was an electric night for sports. And, we're football guys first. So I chose the NFL draft. And it was like every time, I feel like it was after the 10th pick, it was either like there's been a trade or the pick is in. Yeah. And it would be 10 minutes before they would, Goodell would walk out there and give it. I was like, y'all shut up. You're not even going to get the pick right.
Yep.
Yeah, seeing all the trades early on in the first round, that's exciting for me, in my opinion. So,
why does the first pick of the draft have a pick clock?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, you've had what?
I'd say at least 3 months, and you still need 10 minutes once it starts.
I guess is the process to submit a name longer than that. I mean,
so the worst part of the draft
just be a phone call.
Yeah.
The Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock. I don't know. But one last NFL note. What are the Seattle Seahawks going to do for a quarterback?
I think they're riding with Drew Lock.
Well, they can ride all the way down, and it's a lock that they're going to suck ass with.
I don't think so. I really don't.
Yeah, Drew Lock's terrible.
I'm not saying Drew Lock isn't terrible. There's a lot of terrible quarterbacks that have had success in this league with a good defense, which I think Seattle's working on, and a running game. And they invested in,
which means they don't have it yet.
And they invested in the run game in this draft, right? What, 2
had
offensive
running
tackles?
Backs.
I'm talking about the line.
Oh,
they
did draft a running back too, and they had 2 of them already.
Yeah, but injuries, right? Rashard Penny's never been the Rashard Penny he was supposed to be. Chris Carson's had some miles put on him. He started to show some injury signs last year, missed some games. Boye Mafe was the number 1 outside linebacker in the draft with Ojabo injured. I talked about him. I think that's a big help on defense. They got 2 tackles in the first 3 rounds. picked up the second best running back. I like what Seattle's doing. I think they got a really good haul for Wilson. And why not give Drew Lock a year? Why not save the money, keep building the rest of the team around him? If it doesn't work out, wait till you have a decent quarterback class to draft from.
Well,
Geno Smith signed a 1 year, didn't he?
yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so he come back. Geno Smith is not a invaluable backup quarterback, in my opinion.
Oh, no.
I think he is very capable of being the starter there.
Well,
I look for Geno Smith to be the starter, honestly. Why would you go out? I mean, he might be a 1 year holdover. I think you're better off with Geno than you are Drew Lock. That's just me.
Lock's young, man.
Well, yeah. My question is, are the Seahawks going to tank this year? Because, I mean, you're in a division with the Rams. The Cardinals are good. And you got C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young. You got a lot of quarterbacks next year. I mean, we went one quarterback in the first this year. We're talking maybe 3 or 4 next year in the first.
You're looking at 3 in the top 10 next year, according to some mock drafts that I've already seen.
They were 7-10 last year. Where's this coming from? Like,
they had Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson is not. He's not that guy. Russell Wilson is not a top 10 quarterback.
But he's not Drew Lock.
Is Drew Lock? I don't think Drew Lock's that bad. I really don't. He's just as good as Baker. Baker takes the Browns to the playoffs. Why can't Drew Lock do it in a run-heavy scheme with an improved defense? A 7-10 team that beat Indianapolis, that beat San Francisco twice, and Arizona. Like, they had quality wins.
You talk about the Seahawks, right?
Yes.
With Russell Wilson.
Well, I'm saying it's one person.
It's an important person.
I think I would not be shocked if Seattle Seahawks get a wild card spot this year.
That's a bold statement. We'll see. Time will tell. We'll see.
I mean, the NFC is weaker.
I'm not seeing it. But it could happen.
I think it's one of two ways. I think they're either shooting to get one of those franchise guys that they can have for guaranteed, 5 years in C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, or they make additional moves here in this offseason to better their chances at surviving that division, because that's the strongest NFC division.
Yeah.
And like, obviously the NFL offseason has just begun. Like, it's not even close to being over. We're going to see other things happen, and we're going to see other pieces of the puzzle fall. So.
You say it's just begun, Frank, but it has been wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my kids are talking.
Yeah, I'm looking at Seattle's roster right now, and I think they got a lot to work with, but that's just me. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see how the season goes.
It is what it is. We're going to move on from NFL talk for a little bit. Let's move into the NBA playoffs. Biggest news of the NFL playoffs was, it has to be Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and company with the Brooklyn Nets, Steve Nash, swept in the first round. You could blame it on a lot of things. I'm going to blame it on season-long distractions with COVID-related issues concerning Kyrie Irving. I think you can't play. Those guys are world-class athletes in basketball, obviously. I don't think you can get away with building team chemistry in a short period of time when one of your best players and point guard is not there all the time. So, thoughts on the NBA playoffs as it stands now? I'm not a big NBA guy. I'm not huge into it, but
yeah,
I do watch it periodically.
I'll take a different route on that Nets Celtics series, because I watched most of those games. NBA, we've talked about it. It's not fun to watch. These guys are so good. All they do is isolation basketball, where they pick to get the weak guy guarding the ball handler. That's all they do. And what we saw, what Jason Tatum did to Kevin Durant, was outstanding. I believe he held him to like 20% shooting from the field. And, that in a league where we talk about all these great scorers, we rarely talk about the guy who just locks down on defense and takes out a star player. I mean, it's crazy to think the Celtics swept the Nets because the games were so electric. All 4 games were really close, and it didn't feel like a sweep until it was actually over. But, Jason Tatum is an absolute superstar. The fact that the Celtics traded back in that draft with Markelle Fultz and Lonzo Ball to get him at 3 is hysterical now. Thinking about what those 2 guys have done and thinking about what Jason Tatum has done. It is, wow.
And the Celtics are probably one of the best defensive teams in the league. I do know that. Marcus Smart probably should win. They always give Defensive Player of the Year to the big guys, but
he did. He won it
got
this
it.
year.
Yeah, he got
First
it.
time in a long time.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's been a while since somebody other than a big guy has won it.
Yep.
But Marcus Smart is a stud, and he's kind of a role player on that team. Honestly, that's Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum's show. But he plays his role well. And he's a shutdown guy that can score a little bit, and he's just like he's the heart and soul. He's the guy that's been there the longest. He's been there forever.
Yeah,
I think he was drafted. He was drafted by the Celtics, wasn't he?
It's the only jersey I've ever seen him in.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I know he played at Oklahoma State, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I remember watching him at a dunk contest in college. So it's been a while. He's been the same kind of player in the league the entire time. Plays his role well, and is a big reason why the Celtics are as successful as they are.
Yeah. What turned the corner for the Celtics is for the first time since Rondo, they have a leader at point guard. It's not Isaiah Thomas who's out there trying to score. It's not Kemba Walker trying to score. It's not the people they pieced together the last year or two. And then they were bringing Smart off the bench on a wing role. He was playing small forward, power forward at times, depending on the matchup. But they let him run point, and you need that leadership. I think what the NBA lacks right now, not on every player, but for majority of your stars, is that willingness to compete, that edge. Smart has it. Patrick Beverley has it. I think Jaw has it for the Grizzlies, but you don't see it with Durant. I don't think has it. He doesn't have that edge. He's not competitive. He's more worried about what people are going to say after the game. Kyrie's the same way. He's more worried about off the court. James Harden will stay in the same little nucleus of drama there. It's the same way. You don't have those best players in the league like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's not going to let you beat him at quarters in the locker room. Kobe Bryant was going to, it didn't matter what you were playing. Kobe was going to win because it's a competition. And I think it's great to see a team adopt that mentality from a player, like Frank said, isn't the star. And I've seen that element of the game grow for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown playing alongside him. And I love it. That's what I miss from basketball.
I think this semifinals is going to be can't miss stuff. I mean, these matchups are Bucks Celtics, Warriors Grizzlies, Suns Mavs, and then the Heat and the Sixers. I mean, we're talking about 4 dominant teams or 8 dominant teams where it's going to be just fun basketball to watch.
Yeah,
and I think my series.
Any sweeps.
Oh yeah, I would say that probably the one I'm looking forward to the most would be the Heat and the Heat and the Sixers, because I mean that Heat team is absolutely stacked with talent. I mean, so are the Sixers, and I think that's going to be a great series to watch.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Grizzlies and the Warriors. Jaw and Steph, just the energy those two teams play with. I think it'll be fun. It'll be a high-scoring series. There's a lot of offense on the court for those two teams.
It's really cool to see teams like I know the Heat were really good with LeBron and them, but it's a completely different team now. It's cool to see teams like that without major superstars make big pushes. And I know the superstar is a different word thrown around nowadays. Ja Morant is a superstar, but like people are tired of seeing Golden State be successful. People are tired of seeing LeBron be successful, and then we want to see other teams win. Guys like Luka, Joel Embiid, who some people like, some people don't like. But those teams in there with like the Heat and the Mavs with Luka and all them, they want to see those teams succeed, and I think it's gonna be pretty. I might tune in. You never know.
What do you guys think about Simmons saying he'd be ready for Game 4 and then back acting up? having some health issues arise to keep him from playing in that game.
Kudos for that guy. He just finessed two teams to pay him to not play a single minute. And, good for him. I think the guy is a walking triple double. He is, a 10 point guard who can get to the rim. His biggest flaw is he can't shoot a three. Like, dude, what is Ja Morant doing right now? He's leading the league in points in the paint percentage or something like that. It's just like, who cares if you can't shoot? Right, like who cares if you can't shoot? Like, I don't know. Good for him. We'll see. I don't know if he's in New Jersey next year to start the season, but we'll see what happens.
I don't know, man. I don't know what the intent was when they traded for him. You've got two ball dominant people it's straight isolation. He's not a spot up shooter. He doesn't help him there. He was a good defender before, he got in his head and has legitimate health issues or mental issues, whatever's going on. Something's keeping him off the court, but I feel like if you're having those issues, you can't mentally be in the game to be an elite defender. Those guys are always on. We're talking about Smart. We're talking about Beverly. Even like Mikal Bridges. He's quiet, but he's always on. If you're going to be that elite defender for this team, if that's the role you're going to fill, I don't know if you're going to be able to do that when you get back.
Yeah. I mean, I could see why they would trade for him if they just were, James Harden didn't fit with if you're going to have Kyrie full time and KD. I get if you needed to move Harden, Ben Simmons is a great pickup when he plays. I just, they got finessed. They thought he was going to play, but they went through. Frank mentioned it. They went through all the drama about Kyrie and all the COVID stuff, and for such a loaded team, and Steve Nash as your head coach, they're gonna get warranted scrutiny all off season.
Yeah. How do you feel if you're a Blake Griffin or a LaMarcus Aldridge who's taking like a massive pay cut at this stage in your career to compete for a ring?
Let me go play for somebody like Ja Morant. Somewhere fun. That's not fun.
That's where I'm like what happened to Blake Griffin? Because I know he got traded. He got traded to the Pistons, right, from the Clippers.
Yeah.
And he was still doing Blake Griffin things. And then, but now it's like, he's second team. He might play 15 minutes a game.
He's got to be like 32 now, and I don't think he had serious, like prolonged injuries. But with his style of play, they really hurt his game. A sprained ankle for Blake Griffin, it's going to linger, and it might be 2 weeks of no games, but it's 4 months of not having that bounce.
Yeah.
So I think those injuries have just kind of caught up with him, and he's not explosive anymore, and that was his game. He was an explosive player.
Yeah, I think those two guys, their best interest is go be a Kevin Love, go stick with the team and just help out the rookies and those young guys that come in and help mentor them, and because but Cleveland they made they lost in the play-in games, right? So
they made the play-in game.
Yeah, they made the play-in games. So that's how I look at those guys. They just they're riding off in the sunset, getting glorious paychecks, just to play a few minutes here and there every quarter. So it's crazy to see as we grow up, and those are the guys that we kind of grew up watching play. I mean, it was that Clippers team of Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan was oh my gosh,
Lob City.
Yeah, Lob City. And it's like now, Chris Paul is still burning it up with Phoenix, but DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin they're not what they used to be.
Nowhere to be found.
I don't even know what team DeAndre Jordan's on. Is he also on the Nets?
Lakers?
Oh, that's right. I don't know. I really don't.
So, alrighty, fellas. Enough of that old NBA talk. We're going to move on to some Major League Baseball news this week with Trevor Bauer receiving a hefty suspension or ban or whatever you call it. I believe it was upwards of how many games? 200 something, 300 something.
It's 2 full seasons
2
of
full
games.
seasons. So whenever he's able to pitch again, he will have missed almost 3 seasons.
Yeah, let's first start off with this. It's absolute bullshit that he has been suspended for 99 games and already, and he doesn't get credit for those. I mean, that's double jeopardy in my opinion. That's just where I'm going to start though.
I mean, I'm cool with the suspension because legally nothing has happened in terms to get him, jail time, things like that. And it's similar to the Deshaun Watson case.
If it is, Deshaun Watson never plays football again. If it's similar.
It's the same type of – I mean, it might not be similar, but I do agree with Dave when those 99 games should count toward his suspension. So if you want to suspend him for 360 games or whatever it is.
Yeah, just add it in.
Yeah, just subtract it from the total, and then he can come back. I'm cool with him getting suspended. I feel like it should happen a long time ago, in my opinion. But what he did was not something that a human should do. But he got in trouble for it. The league has a policy based on those types of issues, as every league does. But I do think that Dave has a good point. That the dude's already set out almost 100 games. Count those toward his suspension. He's done something. He's getting punished for it. Let him, go through his punishment, and then when he's done, if nothing else is coming of it, let him live his life. Let it play out.
And we talked about this when it first came out, and I 100% agree that the MLB had to do something. There is a growing problem in professional sports, not just Major League, where domestic violence is, nobody's made an example out of. So I 100% get, making an example out of Trevor Bauer. The only issue that I have with it, and granted, I know nothing about the case. I know basically only things that people have reported. So, to me, the things that come to mind is that it was consensual, and that I'm not sure what he did to those ladies, but it sounds, from what I've read, there were text messages implying that's what they wanted done to them. So I think, there is nothing happened in the legal sense. Actually, we're seeing a reversal now, where now he is actually suing them for defamation. And so I think 2 years is steep whenever it's not even over yet in the legal system. And I think this is where the MLB is just making an example out of him. And I think this is now the longest suspension, other than a ban, in MLB history. So I think it was they were doing a 10-day exemption list. They did that for a while now. I think they probably should have done that till it was actually resolved in the court of law, rather than making their own ruling on it.
My understanding, it's not going to a court, right? He's just suing. But the accusations are not, there's no charges, there's not anything legal about them, is there?
Well, there was a third woman that came forward the day the suspension was announced, claiming some stuff.
Yeah, there's more things being brought up by other people. And this happens just about every time, you have an issue like this in this category of criminal activity. You have accusations starting, then you have media's picking it up on it. You have the athlete or whoever it may be in question make public appearances, obviously most of the time denying their acts. And then you have a slew of other individuals alleging the same type of activity that he's already been alleged for. This has happened just about every single time. And that's what's happening now with Trevor Bauer.
Right. And I think that goes back to what I've been saying though. I feel like our justice system, the emergence of social media has changed to where it used to be, innocent until proven guilty, to now it is 100% guilty until proven innocent. And I
And
think,
that's with anything. It's not
yeah,
just one
exactly.
benefit.
And that's what,
Anything.
and that's kind of my issue with where these things are going. I'm not condoning what he's done. Like, get
I
that
don't think
straight here.
anybody could
Right.
or would.
But I
You
think,
are your piece of crap.
right, I think this guy deserves due justice. And I think, his profession is being a major league pitcher. He has not been able to work for, half a year now or for half a season. And now he's not going to be able to work for another 2 years. So his life has been completely upended where, he's not even been prosecuted of anything yet.
Yeah, yeah.
The MLB has prosecuted him and they're not even, I mean, I don't know what kind of legal system they have for this kind of stuff, but it seems premature to me.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Let due process play out. He is inactive until then, not suspended, but can't play.
Yeah.
It's waiting. But
Still gets paid.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Don't condone anything. The suspension is ridiculous. If he was in the NFL, he'd be back by playoffs. I don't get it. I mean, you have a video of Kareem Hunt feet on a woman in a hotel, right? And it's nothing. Like I don't understand it. I think the leagues need to align, even though they're all governed separately, but they are professional sports. It's the big three. They're covered on the same network. They have TV deals with the same broadcasters. They really need to align on this issue, if nothing else, and put in something consistent. They need to allow due process to take place in legal situations and then put their punishment down because they are second, right? That you're an employer and you need to let the law do what it needs to do first. And if you don't want them to take part in your place of employment, I totally understand that. I respect that. Maybe even unpaid. I don't know. It doesn't, that doesn't really back up what you said, Dave. Innocent until proven guilty. If you're taking their pay away, then they are being penalized. But it's a mess. I hope that everyone involved has a resolution that brings some kind of, peace, some kind of relief for all those involved. But I don't understand the move by baseball. I think it is premature, and I think it's pretty extreme.
Can I butt in here? And this is the reason why I am so fired up about this suspension is Marcell Ozuna. I'm not sure if you guys remember this, but late last year he was charged with felony domestic assault or domestic abuse. Cops witnessed him strangling his wife. Witnessed by cops. So we have, good guys telling us, hey, we saw this. MLB gave him a 20-game unpaid suspension.
Yeah.
And that's where I get fired up about, well, why are you giving this guy a 300-game suspension where it's he said, she said, as of right now, it's he said, she said, where, Ozuna, he shouldn't step on a baseball field again.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's my problem with it. If you're gonna do it big, be consistent. Don't just. I mean, Marcelo Ozuna is a big name. I mean, he's been to a few ball teams now, but that guy should not be on a baseball field. He should not be paid.
Yep. Yeah.
Lots of issues going on with the way things are handled. I think you can't make rules for everything, but when things are in the same category of something like domestic violence or domestic abuse, especially when it's something that is being handled legally by the court of law, just like it would have any other normal everyday person, I think that's what we get mixed up here. outside of the sport they play, these people are regular people. They live the same lives as we do, right? They do the same things as we do. They. It's very similar. Some of it's more extravagant than others, but if in real life, outside of the sport, Trevor Bauer is not getting in trouble on his actions, just like some other random person on the street wouldn't get in trouble for those same actions. There comes a time when combining the two, real life and sport, it has to be similar, right? So if you wouldn't get fired from your normal job, why were you getting punished from your job as an athlete?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he shouldn't get punished.
Yeah.
Because obviously something bad has happened. He's been in some situations he probably shouldn't be in. Hurt some people that probably didn't deserve it. But in the end, a guy like Ozuna, proven, visibly seen, hard evidence proof, charged for it, played yesterday in the game.
Yeah. That's where the leagues are failing.
Equitable. It's not equitable.
No, they're entertainment industries, right? And every league right now has a movement to increase visibility to youth. The age is getting older, these viewers. NFL is playing games on Nickelodeon.
Yeah, it's awesome, by the way, if you haven't watched that.
But they're playing games, and they got people on the field that,
are bad people.
These kids Google a player's name. What are they seeing? What are they learning? And I'm not saying people can't make mistakes and come back from those, but in this industry, with the spotlight you have on you, with the outreach you have, it's not okay. You can't put those people on the field anymore. There's other opportunities in sports that are less public. You have less influence. I agree with you 100%. He shouldn't be on a baseball field anymore. There's people in the NFL that are going to take snaps, opening day, that should not be on a football field anymore. And I don't know how they fix it. I know it's going to, maybe they lose a little money, but it's the right thing to do. And all these leagues have got to figure out how to address it.
And it's not like there's a shortage of talent either.
Right.
I mean, granted, some of these guys that we're talking about are the cream of the crop. I mean, Trevor Bauer is a Cy Young winner.
Yeah.
He's not that good.
He won a Cy Young.
He calls it the Mickey Mouse Cy Young. It was a partial year.
He's 31. Does he play again?
Yeah.
Somebody will take a flyer on him.
The way he trains, he's changed the way pitchers are viewed and changes the way pitchers' off seasons work. It's really a movement. He's part of an association called Driveline. Was pivotal in bringing that to light to all levels of baseball. The training methods that he's went through, long tossing, throwing every single day. It's kind of changed the way people coach pitchers and athletes in general. So he's going to still be in shape. He trains all the time. He's active on YouTube and social media. So he'll still be able to. Now, if somebody allows him to, that's two different stories. So.
Yeah, and I think, let's not get it twisted here. The MLB is doing this. They're making an example out of him, but they have to have some sort of evidence against him to warrant this. So let's not get that, twisted. He's probably guilty of something that he's being, if there's smoke, there's fire. But yeah, he'll play. Somebody will take a flyer on him. There's people that have done worse that people have paid, and it's an entertainment industry. So, even people will buy tickets to go boo him at his first start. Like, don't get it wrong. Yeah. It's entertainment. They are there to sell tickets, sell beer, sell shirts. So people will go to watch Trevor Bauer play.
The only team that would make sense to pick him up would be the Yankees.
Yeah. I don't think he should be playing right now, but I think the suspension is wrong either way. If he's innocent, it shouldn't. There's no way it should be 2 years. If he's guilty, it should be more. Right? He should be done. So I don't see 2 years isn't the resolution for me either way.
Yeah, and I think these teams, these industries, they have domestic violence in the spotlight And I think they have an absolute perfect opportunity to say, hey, this is a black and white league. If you are on the good side, don't do domestic violence. You are free to play here. But as soon as we start hearing incidents of this, you're done. Cut guys out. There are too many people out there that are giving everything to get a spot on a team, and I don't think that the play will suffer by cleaning house a little bit. I mean, if you are that worried about people, your image on the field, having no what's it called? Shoot, I'm blanking.
Zero tolerance.
Yeah, zero tolerance policy.
Yeah.
Just get them out of the league. Then you don't have this 20 game versus 300 game suspension controversy.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a great conversation, guys. We could talk all day on our opinions on things, and if we were running the league, obviously we would do things a little differently. And I love David's idea of cleaning the crap out of professional sports, and it's always going to be there, and there's always going to be there. Something happening with a lot of these guys because their lifestyles are just so much different. But when you start hammering down on getting things out that need to be out, people are going to know that and move going in and be like, hey, I can't make these decisions. It's going to jeopardize my career and my livelihood. But now it's not happening. So it continues to, all these bad things continue to come up. But we're going to move it on. We got a couple more smaller topics to talk about before we wrap up the show.
Small may not be fair, but
it's smaller than what we talked about already. But Coop's going to let us go on the he wants to talk about his North Carolina Tar Heels and how they've returned everybody. But yeah, Coop, you got the floor, buddy.
Yeah, Redeem Team 3.0. Here we come. It's happened 2 times before. Carolina's brought everybody back. They won a national title. Roy did it in 2017. Looks like the crew is back together this year. They lose Brady Manick as the only main contributor, although he was a huge one in that run to the title. Bring in 3 top 100 recruits, as well as gain eligibility from Will Shaver, who's been on campus since December. And I am more than excited for next year in Chapel Hill. Basically told the transfer portal, they had some names that were floating around. Everybody came back. They're out of scholarships, so they're not even active in the transfer portal. That team is together right now on campus with everybody. There's no chemistry issues to work out. There's nothing that they have to do except win ball games. I think Puff Johnson played great coming on at the end of the season. Those last couple games, he was huge. He kept them in that title game when Baycott got hurt. I think he'll slide in nice at the 4. And, boys, Hubert Davis is doing some great things in Carolina. Picked up G.G. Jackson, has the potential for another top 10 recruit, which could give him 3 of the top 10 in his first full season recruiting. Super excited for Carolina basketball as they move forward. National Player of the Year is on the team in Armando Baycott. National Defensive Player of the Year. What? He's National Player of the Year. He should have been in the conversation already this season. Set the record for double-doubles. Set the tournament record for rebounds.
What did he do against Oscar, though? He had a decent game against Oscar. I'll give him that. But I'm sorry, as long as Oscar Tshiebwe is on the floor, for big men alone, I think Oscar Tshiebwe is number 1. I mean, I'm not saying Armando Baycott won't give him a run for his money this next year, but
it just depends on what role they play. This year, Oscar was the guy. Next year, he might not have to be the guy. And if he doesn't have to be the guy, he won't have the point values. He'll have 15 a game again, but he won't have that many, 25 plus 30-point games if he doesn't have to. But it would be interesting to see. I know Baycott was kind of under the radar a lot for most of the year until North Carolina started heating back up.
Yeah.
I think them being out of the conversation in the tournament for a long period of time hurt his value there in terms of Player of the Year talk.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw after the last Duke Carolina game in the tournament, Coach K told him, he came up to him and he was like, "You were my player of the year." Like Pablo Banchero won that in ACC, and his own coach told Baycott that he should have won it over him. So, I mean, I think that says a ton right there about how underappreciated he was last season.
That's what fires me up about NBA basketball is that you got guys like Baycott and Oscar and Drew Timme, all these guys who are phenomenal college basketball players.
They don't get a chance.
And I mean, thank God. I mean, I know we talked bad about the NIL and stuff like that, but thank God they're at least able to make some money, because it is a shame that they aren't playing in the NBA, because they would be 100% contributors to any of those teams that needed them. You're talking about guys who just go get rebounds and are going to, clean the glass. They're going to put back layups or dunks or whatever. You can't tell me that doesn't play in the NBA. I mean, granted, you might not want to waste a first-round pick on it, but it's just wild to me that those guys, they're going to make more money coming back to school than if they were to be a second round or an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, the one thing those guys lack, you can play in the league just rebounding, not stretching the floor, but you have to be a shot blocker. And they're not. I mean, they're not elite shot blockers, neither one of those guys, Sheboy or Baycott. We're talking about like records and stuff. Baycott's breaking records set by Tim Duncan. He's not going to beat Tim Duncan. He'll never get the opportunity. I don't think he's that good anyway, but he'll never have the opportunity like Duncan had in that era. But yeah, it is a shame.
The difference between Tim Duncan and whoever plays now is it was an inside-out game then. Like everybody was inside in the paint, and Tim Duncan was doing it with everybody around him. These guys are doing it with two or three people in the paint. Period.
Yeah.
There might have been 9 or 10 people in the paint when Duncan was doing it. They wasn't spreading the floor, getting out, and it's 4 out. It's 4 out, 1 in. It's like that now, but it wasn't like that back then. So, in the interview on ESPN where Sheboy announced he was coming back to UK, they asked him what the feedback was from the NBA, and he's mentioned that they wanted him to learn how to shoot and to dribble better, which
those are
he did
key.
He did have a mid-range jump shot from the top of the key. That was money. I think a 3-point shot, you're going to see Sheboy probably chuck up some threes next year, which if he makes it, who cares? It'll go in. You might see him catch the ball at the top of the key and driving it more to the basket, and that's what they want to see. And I don't think he's that type of player, but he's going to try to attempt to show that he can do those types of things periodically. But that's what plays in the NBA nowadays, which is unfortunate. But any other glaring NCAA news, Dave?
Yeah, I think the big news for Kentucky fans was Duke, swooping in and stealing Jay Lucas, and which is a immediate impact from Kenny Payne going and getting Nolan Smith.
Yeah.
So it hurts that Kenny Payne, we have to root against him at Louisville now, and now he's causing our assistant coaches to leave. But good for Jay Lucas. Kentucky's a stepping stone. Those kids come in and they want to go to the NBA, and the coaches are the same way. They're just trying to get a better job, but do better for your family. So no hard feelings for him wanting to leave. Getting a promotion.
It's a promotion. It's not a better, not necessarily a better school per se, but his role is improving.
Right.
Elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And Cal is 100% okay with that. We've seen a lot of turnover lately with the staff, but even like Brad Calipari leaving and going elsewhere to LIU Brooklyn to be a special assistant to the head coach. And the dude was like a stat guy at UK as a grad assistant. So you're looking at Jay Lucas probably going in and being like a lead recruiter for Duke, which is a big deal. At UK, he was one of our top recruiters, but he wasn't like the guy. I would say Antigua is probably our lead guy. But guys that come into Kentucky and leave to go do better things and have bigger roles, that says a lot about Kentucky and why they want to come here anyway. It's a good place for a young coach to get his name out there. Lucas came from Texas, also a very formidable program. and he knew Kentucky was going to be the one that put him over the top and put his name out there. So there's a special aura around UK, and I know the quote unquote success lately hasn't been there. And what you determine as success and what other people determine as success are two different things. But in the grand scheme of things, it's a great program. It's one of the best programs that you could be a part of. And to have that on your resume is a big deal moving forward, whether you're a player or a coach. And so that's a good thing.
Yeah. I think the state of college basketball is, once we get these COVID seniors out, I think the state of basketball is going to change dramatically, but I think it's going to be produce such a better on-court product. I mean, we're going to talk where all of these rivalries should be coming back.
Yes.
Kentucky and Louisville should be back. I would expect Indiana to start coming back now that they're able to, get some guys in that, they could keep them around, some studs. UCLA is working their way back. Duke and North Carolina never left. I think we're going to start seeing all of these, third, fourth year studs, sprinkled in with some top tier freshmen that are going to go on to the draft later. But I think we're going to see some great basketball here in the next few years.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, but the exodus of coaches, I think, is not over. We've lost 3 greats in the past 2 years, and I'm sure I'm forgetting some people. I apologize that I'm only listing 3, but between Coach K, Coach Williams, and Jay Wright, you just had like 10 national titles walk out the door of college basketball.
That could definitely be 3/4 of a Mount Rushmore in itself.
Yeah.
Is Bayham gone too?
He's
No,
not
he's still
yet.
Probably waiting for his boys to get through.
I think so. I think this was their last year. I know one of them lost eligibility, but I'm thinking they're both done.
Well,
so I think you're just going to have a slight transition period until you get some of these coaches in a long-term role. Like, we need to know that Hubert Davis can hold it down at Carolina. I think he will. He's had a great start. Can John Shire be that guy at Duke for how long? Kenny Payne, I don't think there's any question. I think Kenny Payne can retire from Louisville.
they're going to give him anything he wants.
I honestly don't know who's at Indiana, but when you have these turnover at these schools, who's going to come in and hold it down and be the next
Mike Woodson at Indiana.
Yeah, I think he's an alum.
Yeah, just make sure that I feel like to have a rivalry, you have to have that relationship from coach to coach, and they have to be staples there. So excited to see who gets those opportunities. As we keep going and see some coaches leave. Izzo's up there. Like you said, Boeheim's up there. Self may not have too many years left. So still some huge names at big programs that we could see kind of transition with these players like you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the names to kind of watch here in the next few years, which they've made names for themselves already, would be like, Bruce Pearl or a Musselman or a Nate Oates. Those are, especially Musselman and Oates, those are up-and-coming young guns who have done really well with their programs. And yeah, and so I'm very curious. You see what's Bill Self going to do with Kansas's ongoing legals, NCAA battle where they have level 1 violations alleged against them. Maybe Bill Self just walks away, and now we see, Musselman walking over at Kansas, which would be a huge problem for everybody that's not named Kansas. So
somebody like Chris Beard going down there too.
Yeah, like they are. We, like Coop said, we have some big names that are stepping away, but I think it's fun to think about the young coaches who have made names for themselves, and it's like it'll be fun to see who replaces who. And I do like how I believe Hubert Davis was an inside hire at UNC, right?
Yes.
So, now you're seeing Hubert Davis, John Shire, I don't know the Villanova coach's name, but they all made inside promotions to head coach, which I absolutely love. So it's not like this was, jaw-dropping information to those schools, and they had a plan in place, but they actually stuck to their plan. They don't go and chase a name. So I love that.
Who is the top coach in
Go
college
ahead.
basketball?
The top coach?
Yeah, who is it now? Who's the best coach in college basketball?
Are we saying all time or just right now?
Current
Right
coach, active head coach.
It's got to be Bill Self until somebody else beats him.
Man, that's hard for me to say. I don't know. I'm not wowed myself. When I watch him, I don't feel like he has that presence these other guys did. He doesn't have the personality, but that's just me. I just don't really connect with him. He's not, he's a different conference. He's not at the coaches' dinners, so I don't get that conversation.
That's a go ahead.
It's a good question.
My pick is Izzo. He would be the one I would want of the active coaches. That's just my personal opinion. Tom Izzo is the best head coach actively in current basketball.
I think I'm going to go with Mark Few. I think he has.
That's not a bad pick.
He has seen the criticism of being a mid-major school, and he has doubled down. And you can't say that they play the hardest non-conference beginning of the season schedule than anybody else.
They did this year especially.
Yeah, so he's still chasing that elusive ring, but I think if I were to start a program, I think because he's a guy that he can build it from the ground up. He's not going to rely on the transfer portal and all that, and I think that speaks a lot to me.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, we're going to wrap the show up with a little NHL talk. Do you want to walk us through some hockey playoff situations and some big storylines on the ice?
Yeah. So, I know most of our listeners are in Kentucky. Not much ice around those parts, but I will. My plea to you:
there's a lot of rain, though.
If you are bored on a weeknight or a weekend, and you are looking for something different to watch, let me tell you, the NHL playoffs are just what you are looking for. You are going to see some big hits. You're going to see some cool goals, and it is just fast paced. You will not get bored watching hockey. Granted, Google the rules. If you don't know the rules, give them a quick Google. It'll help explain a lot of things. But this playoffs are going to be electric. We have seen the Florida Panthers were the best overall team in the NHL this year, who are super hot. They have a first-round matchup against the Capitals with Alex Ovechkin, who is making a push to be one of the greatest of all times, pushing that Wayne Gretzky goal.
Even if you don't watch hockey, you know who Ovechkin is.
Exactly.
And Crosby and those guys.
Yeah. So then the second matchup we got are the Maple Leafs versus the Lightning. The only thing you need to know here, the Lightning are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, and the Maple Leafs haven't won a series, I believe, in this decade, or actually this century. I don't think they have won a playoff series in the 2000s. So the Maple Leafs are very good. The Lightning are very good. And Austin Matthews for the Maple Leafs is also another young U.S. player who I believe scored over 60 goals in the regular season. So another good matchup to watch. Third one, we got the Hurricanes versus the Bruins. The Bruins are a very good team. They like to hit. And if you like to watch physical hockey, which I do, watch the Bruins. Rangers, Penguins, I don't really know much about those teams. They've got some good players, Sidney Crosby, Artemi Panarin for the Rangers. Going to be a good series, but check it out if you want. And then as we get into the Western Conference, I'm a St. Louis Blues guy. That's the Blues are in the West. That's going to be an electric conference as well. The Avalanche were the second best team, and some would say arguably the favorites to win the Cup. They have a series against the Nashville Predators. Nashville loves to throw some catfish on the ice. If you want to go see a quick game down in Nashville, that's where you should go.
If I was a hockey fan, the Predators would probably be my team. Simply because I watched Bussin' with the Boys. Do you guys watch that at all? Barstool with Taylor Luan and
yeah, I follow him on Twitter, but I don't listen to him.
Yeah. So Taylor Luan goes to Predators games all the time, and with his offensive line buddies from Tennessee, and they all got their own Predators jerseys on, and they're all chugging beer. and they I guess they actually take catfish and like pour beer down the catfish and drink it out off a catfish's back. It's crazy, but that's who my team. If I had to pick a team, it would be Nashville.
Don't blame me there, buddy. But all right, so
I
going
couldn't
on.
name a single player, but that's who I would pick.
Well, they're all Canadian or Russian. Sprinkle in some Americans. So the next series will be the Flames versus the Dallas Stars. Really, the only thing you need to know here is Tkachuk for the Flames, American player as well. Absolute menace. The guy loves picking fights, and he knows how to bait people into fights. But he's not going to fight them, so he gets them in trouble, and he skates away. But he is an electric young player for the Flames who makes things happen. And then you got the Oilers versus the Kings. All you need to know here is Connor McDavid is the best player in hockey. He is Wayne Gretzky 2.0. In 10 years, we will be talking about him breaking all of Wayne Gretzky's records. And
for reference, he's the Mike Trout of hockey right now.
Yeah. And what's crazy is he is playing for the same team that Wayne Gretzky came up playing with. And their offense is loaded. They have some defensive troubles, but very good team. And then I am saving the best series for last. And that is right. You're talking about my St. Louis Blues versus the Minnesota Wild. These two teams are on a heater. They were the top two winningest teams in the month of April, and now they're going to play against each other in the first round of the NHL playoffs. If this is my you can't miss series. I mean, the Blues are loaded with scoring talent. They have 4 lines which all can score, and the Minnesota Wild are the exact same way. Both teams don't like each other. You're going to see some fights. You're going to see some big hits. You're going to see some cool goals. So this is my plea to everyone. Tune in to the St. Louis Blues Minnesota Wild series. You won't be disappointed.
All right, with that, I'm David. I'm going to give my vow to you. I'm going to make a valiant effort to watch as many hockey games as possible this week. We got a lot of baseball games this week away, so it's gonna be pretty difficult. But on our off nights, I'm definitely gonna be tuning into hockey.
Yeah, and I believe most of those will be on TNT. There might be some ESPN coverages coming because I know they picked them up this year. Or if you have like a Bally Sports regional network, your local team should be on that.
I did a few years ago buy a hockey game on my PS4, and that's how I kind of know some of the rules of hockey. If you're interested in learning the rules of hockey, playing a video game is a good way to do it.
I have such a hard time picking up new sports because I am a dedicated fan. Okay, you guys hear me spit off numbers. I could tell you I've watched Seth Trimble play 8 games in high school. You probably don't know who Seth Trimble is, but he's the number 3 recruit that's coming into Carolina next year. All right. I just get into so many layers in the sports I do follow that I watch another one and I'm in the dark because I don't have the relationship.
And you don't like it.
Yeah, it's so hard for me.
Well, and I would say that's even a better reason to watch hockey because it's like soccer where it is international 100%. You're going to see like a handful of guys go in the draft from America. And the rest of it's all of these international guys. So it's a sport where you can just watch it and be like, "Oh, I don't need to know all this information because nobody else knows it." Because there's so many wrinkles to it all. And that's where it's like, you watch the Olympics. They were supposed to have hockey this year in the Junior Olympics, and then all of these internationals. It's like you turn on a game. It's like scores a goal. It's like, oh, sweet, cool. He's supposed to be like the number 10 pick next year. You don't have to care about it. You can just watch it and have fun and drink a beer.
But I'm pretty stuck in my ways. I have to know a lot about what I'm watching. I need details. I need to know who's coming in if somebody gets hurt. I need to know the schemes the coordinators are running. I got to be invested.
I would like to get together and go to a hockey game one time, though. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Oh, boys. St. Louis is a short drive.
But so is Nashville. So we can get St. Louis coming to Nashville or something like that and all meet down there. That'd be cool.
I think St. Louis might be closer.
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
It's like less than 4 hours, isn't it? From
It's about 3 hours. Well,
What's Nashville like?
once you get to Bowling Green, Nashville's like a 30-minute drive.
It's all like 15 for me right now, boys. I'm 45 minutes from DC, so let's catch Capitals game.
Hey, I'd do it.
Or we all go to separate games and FaceTime each other and do our podcast from the game.
Yeah.
That'd be wild.
That'd be so funny. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up. A little longer of a show today, about an hour and a half. We had a lot to talk about. We didn't have a show last week. We kind of pieced together some other things to keep you guys in the loop with our relationships and things, that how what we're doing in the world of sports and what's happening in the world of sports. But appreciate you tuning in like always. Hope you enjoyed the show. Be on the lookout for clips and little snippets of different parts of the show on our YouTube channel. Like and share the YouTube videos. We would really appreciate that. Again, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're on our quest to 100 subscribers. I think at 100 subscribers, fellas, we should do some merch of some sort. I want a hat and t-shirt. And t-shirt drop at 100 subscribers on my bill. I'll do it happily.
Whoa.
All right. Yeah. Just for us, though. And we'll pick a winner and we'll send them a shirt and a hat, too.
Hey, just run it through the baseball boosters. Nobody will know.
We don't even have baseball boosters. All right, guys. Peace. We love you guys. Have a good week.